Lynn has some music for us to help us center. Well, thank you, Lynn. Announcements. I'm not aware of any that need to be made. Lynn, do you know of anything about USFW or anything?
No, we moved our meeting date this month. If you have looked at the newsletter, it looks like I made a mistake, but this time I didn't. We actually did move the date, but it's a week later, so there's no announcement that needs to be made now.
And monthly meeting will not be on a Sunday. Remember, we changed it to a Wednesday evening. So check your newsletter uh, for the time and date. Joys and concerns to share as we gather. I think one joy is Toinette is recovered well from her procedure a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. I feel great.
And I have a little problem. This is Larry. A couple of weeks ago, they found a golf ball sized, probably parathyroid on me, and that's not good. And so my calcium levels are all over the map. And on the 20th, I get my little friend removed.
Okay.
Well, I had a joy. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you can see it. My grandson participated in a jazz thing, and the group got a gold. And then before that, we had to go to Franklin, and the drum band that he's in plays, so they're performing now as we speak. So we'll see how that goes.
It's good to be home. Really good to be home. Enjoyed Belize for 8 weeks, and that's about long long enough. The last week we were informed that there was another family moving in from Canada to help on the staff, and they were going to live in a big old house that hadn't had any loving care for the last, I don't know, 20 years. And we gathered in the forces and we transformed that house in 5 days, and they're living in it today. Painting, scraping walls, painting, took apart the sink and the new countertop. I painted all the shelves in the kitchen and the walls, and oh my goodness. It took 20 or so of us to do that.
easy to say, well, you're happy to be home.
Yep.
Sounds like one of those reality TV shows.
Well,
Flip this
the
house.
results are a little different than that, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's still Belize. It's still a little rustic.
Well, let's hold both our joys and concerns in God's light and love as we continue worship. So many things to be grateful for and so many things to be concerned about at the same time. So let's continue to center, and I will speak out of the silence as I feel led. Well, yesterday was it was 5 years ago yesterday that Nancy had her big stroke. And it was a sunny day, and it was a Sunday, not a Saturday. It was a sunny day like today. And I came out, and she goes, I can't walk, and she could barely talk. But that became the uncovering of a lot of different things besides the effects of the stroke. That's when we learned, thanks to MRIs, that she had vascular dementia and that sort of thing. And it precipitated a big change in our lives, of course. She really bounced back the first year, did pretty well, and could do some things, and even could go outside thanks to therapy and work in her gardens some. But more and more, I was restricted to here and helping her, and things just weren't getting done around the farm. And as things progressed, of course, I was more and more literally housebound at times and couldn't maintain the farm like I wanted, and had to rely on Michael and grandson Josh when he and Lexi moved next door. And during those times, I began thinking, as she got worse, well, one day she won't be here, but I will. And what to do about this land and property? What should I do? And I began kind of contemplating, well, maybe it would be time to move. And after my health scare in January, it became more clear that I really needed to do that. I just can't do the things I used to that need done around the farm, and it's it's a lot of property to take care of and a lot of house to take care of. So as I've been, the contemplation about moving has moved pretty strongly toward a decision that I need to. And so I've been going through all sorts of things. I mean, we started sorting all of Nancy's decorations. And if you knew Nancy and had ever been here, I mean, the basement is full of decorations for holidays. She loved holidays. Those were sort of the easier things for me, but I've been going through my bookshelves, especially of late. They're filled with books that I've collected over the years. I have the first book I bought in 1975 and had it autographed by the author. My first autographed copy. I still have that book of poems. And actually, I had a whole 2 shelves, floor to ceiling, of autographed books that I've collected over the years. Books that just brought me pleasure by seeing them on the bookshelves, to walk in there and here's all these books there. I mean, I loved going to the library as a kid, and to have the library myself, wow. And I never could imagine parting with them, but I am. The thought of moving them all and finding a place to display them just isn't fitting with where I am. As I was sorting the other day, trying to decide what to keep and what to donate to friends of the library and what to take to Goodwill, I was reminded of a scripture that I included in my book, Life Lessons from a Bad Quaker. Now, this is the new Brent Bill version of that scripture. I write my own Bible sometimes. And it is, and Jesus told them this parable. The house of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest of books. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my books. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll hire a contractor to come and build new bookshelves in the loft and the living room. And in them I will store many of my books. The rest I will put in boxes in the garage attic until I can build more bookshelves. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of books, laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and read on. But God said to him, thou fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself, including the author autographed first editions? That's Matthew 12:16 through 20 in the Brent Bill version. Of course, that's the story of the farmer who builds more barns. But it is sort of true. I did build more bookcases. Somebody came to visit the house yesterday and they go, how many bookcases do you have? I have boxes in the basement and the attic, and as I began sorting, I felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume. And how to make a decision about what to keep and what to let go of. The letting go of is what most struck me and is with me in this message. Especially after I did think about that silly version of my own scripture about the man with the barn. You could take that scripture and make it about you and whatever cumbers you. But these books that once the mere having them brought me joy had become a weight. something that cumbered me. Cumber is an old word, and it's something we don't hear much anymore. I first heard it in modern usage about 10 years ago at Canadian Yearly Meeting in a talk on simplicity. And cumbered is how early friends referred to how the things we own or think we own weigh us down. Cumber is how the things that we own end up owning us. True simplicity, I believe, is not really about how little I have, although some friends live very, very modestly, or how much you have. Rather, it's about why I have what I have, and what I do, and what consumes me. Not just possessions, but even what cumbers my time, what cumbers me down, what weighs me down instead of freeing me. Now, dear Nancy's gone, so she can't refute what I'm going to say, which she would be happy to do, I'm sure. But we had a number of conversations over the years about how she was cumbered by 24/7 news. Even before her stroke 5 years ago, she had the news on constantly. Had come out, it would be on in the morning, and this was especially true in the winter when she couldn't go out and work in the gardens. And the news made her sad or angry, depending on what the news was. As she got worse with her dementia and her physical abilities and couldn't work in her gardens, the news depressed her more and more. And her doctors and nurses encouraged her to quit watching the news, feeling that she would be better off not, because it just owned her instead of being something that was useful to her. Now, I will say, as her dementia worsened, it was a little bit easier to switch the channels on her without her noticing, to old Westerns or old I Love Lucy and that sort of thing, which she enjoyed and could follow. But as I was thinking about all these possessions, I was also thinking about what does cumber me besides them. It's not that they're bad things, but at this stage of my life, and I think that that's part of it, the seasons of our lives change, and what our possessions mean to us and matter changes as well. Now, I didn't get rid of all my books. I still have that first edition from 1975. That's moving with me. And books autographed by friends are going with me. The books that I go to and pull down and enrich me all the time. As I said, that first book of poetry that I bought, I actually connected a few weeks ago with the guy who wrote it, and I hadn't seen him since 1975. And I sent him an email about that, and he really turned me on to poetry. And I told him that he did, and I said, the one section that's not getting winnowed at all is the poetry section. All my poetry books are still coming because they still feed my soul. But other things I found that have cumbered me is feeling like I need to respond to every email I get, whether the people like me or not. And believe it, I do get emails from people who don't like me about what I've written or whatever. I also get requests to write small pieces and for other places, and sometimes I found them encumbrance, and I'm letting go of that. my need to do that doesn't exist any longer. One of my favorite quotes on simplicity comes from Friend Lloyd Lee Wilson, North Carolina conservative friend. And he writes, simplicity is the name we give to our effort to free ourselves, to give full attention to God's still, small voice. The sum of our efforts to subtract from our lives everything that competes with God for our attention and clear hearing. I need to remind myself of that quote from time to time.
Repeat it one more time.
Thank you. I was going to read it again. Simplicity is the name we give to our effort to free ourselves, to give full attention to God's still, small voice. The sum of our efforts to subtract from our lives everything that competes with God for our attention and clear hearing. I know that the things I choose to do that sometimes feel a burden, or the things that I own, need to be subtracted so I can more carefully at this time in my life live closer to God and grow into the person that I'm to be in this season of my life. So I'm appreciative of his quote and the idea of cumbrance. Again, it's not about how much of things we have. It's how much are they a distraction and a weight instead of bringing us joy. There's no one right answer. It's what's right for us. What cumbers our time? What cumbers our attention? What cumbers us by the mere having of them instead of freeing us? So I've tried to put together a little query, and I'll offer it if it's helpful. And the query is for you to ask, what comes to mind when I first think about what cumbers me? And the second part of the query is, how can I lighten that load?
Thank you, Brent. If there was ever a message I needed to hear, it was your message today. I don't look behind me. Uh, this is just the tip of the stuff that's in my house, and it's does distract me, and I really should be doing more than just ta saying hello to God in the morning and thanking for the day. I really need to uncumber myself and part with things that I have. And like Nancy, I listened to way too much news and was told, stop watching the news. It depresses you too much. So I totally relate, and I'm going to try to do better. Thank you, Brent.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. That's something I needed as well. Uh, the first month and a half of this thing I have now, uh, when after my fall, I actually stopped watching news. I kept it on uh, Hallmark, and I kept it low so that I could barely hear it. And there was absolutely no news whatsoever. And that kind of helped me mentally. And so, anyway, right now, this past week, I've been diagnosed with multiple blood clots in my right leg. So, anyway, working on that. But thank you so much. I needed to hear that.
And that we'll continue with more on program worship for those who can stay. And we know some have other obligations. So we bid you Godspeed, God's blessing on your week. And hold all these prayer concerns that we've heard in our hearts for Larry, for Sue, and others. Blessings, and let's continue in worship.
Thank you, Brent.
He gave a message that was right on target for us on how he's, I don't know if you, I was hoping you.
I heard part of it
Part of it.
about the books.
Yeah,
What'd you say?
well, he's decided to, he used the word cumber, which is weighted down, and he's decided he could, at one point, he could never get rid of, if he had two huge stacks of autographs.
So we've been going through stuff, trying to figure out what burdens us also, and I find that it's so much easier to let something go when it goes somewhere that's going to appreciate it, whether it's a book or a project at work that somebody else can do. You just feel like it's easier to drop it if it goes in the hands of somebody else who's going to care about it. So maybe I need to let that go too. When when you just say no and let whatever happens, let God take care of it from there, instead of me having to have control over where it goes. Let God have control of where it goes. I don't know what happened to the barns in that scripture, but maybe it's not up to me what happens to it.
Hi, this is Toinette, and I'm turned 70 this year, and I was so excited about it. And it's just been a lot of setbacks health wise, but it just makes me appreciate what life I have left. And I think a lot of times about all the stuff that I need to let go of and simplify my life. So Brent's message today means a lot to me because I'm always thinking about what ideas and ideals that I hold do I need to let go of. I've always been just very hugely involved in recycling, but it seems that our little town of Pensacola has lost the appetite for recycling. There's no money to be made in it. And so all my years of, hoping and growing and encouraging recycling and just doing it by myself, it weighs on me heavily because people just aren't concerned about it and concerned about the impact it has on our environment and the ocean and animals and on our health. And it just worries me. But today, what I've been contemplating on is that I need to let go of the worry because in my age, there's just not a whole lot I can do. But I appreciate the message today, Brent.
Few years ago when I was in one summer helped two of my aunts and my father-in-law moved from independent living in their own place to an assisted living facility. And I thought there's got to be a book somewhere that tells you how to do this. There's got to be a way to help a person keep their identity and their memories alive when they have such a huge change in their environment. So I started taking photographs of things and put them in a picture album for my father-in-law to say, you don't need this here, but I'll take a picture of it so you can still have the memories. And I thought that worked pretty well for a while. It doesn't take near as much space in your new place if you have a picture album as it does if you take all those things with you. But there are other ways that I think that we have responsibility for taking it on our own, as you are all doing, is to say it's time to part with these things I've spent my life collecting. This is a burden for someone to have to, someone else, if they may have to do it. It's actually a spiritual exercise, I think, to say what means something to me now and how long will it mean something to me, and where's a better place for it. So we also are working on that in this house. Keep the house for a while longer, but I don't need all this stuff that's in the house. Don't need all this stuff that's going to be a burden for someone else to deal with. So Chip, get your camera out, start taking pictures, and then part with it.
Thank you, Sylvia.
If friends' hearts are clear, I think we'll close meeting for worship.
My heart is clear. Now, this was Maggie. I mean, yeah, on my dad. She doesn't understand quiet time.
Take care, friends. Good to see everyone. Thanks for your note in the chat, Steve. Unless you'd like to say it out loud.
That was me.
That was from
Oh, Catherine.
I never speak, so I figure I can write it.
And you ask if all hearts and mind are clear. I think they're a little burdened. Material stuff. Letting go is one of the biggest life lessons. It's really hard to learn.
Since Lynn played Simple Gifts, I thought I would be remiss if I didn't mention that yesterday was the birthday of Mother Ann Lee, the foundress of the Shakers. She was actually born on February 29th, but you only get that every 4 years. So we could give her an honorable mention at least and like that.
Well, I think that everybody needs to just wait until Wednesday before they get rid of all of their stuff, because Tuesday is Fat Tuesday.
Oh.
And then you can get rid of it all on Wednesday.
So live large until Wednesday.
That's right.
Okay.
I
Well,
will take that advice.
I wish I'd have thought about that before I took all those books to Friends of the Library. No.
Thank you for that, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Yeah. Well, you take care. It's good to see everyone, and have a blessed rest of the day.
Thank you. It's been enjoyable.
Thank you, Brent.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
God bless everyone.